If you had money to invest today, would you put it in the Yukon? Not Toronto, not Alberta, not Vancouver. Those are great places, but no, the Yukon. It's a territory larger than many countries, rich in resources, but with a population smaller than most Canadian cities. So people see untapped potential, while others see isolation, risk, and logistical challenges. Today, we're going to look at the Yukon the way real investors do, not through hyperpolitics, but through economics, infrastructure, and long-term viability. We're going to examine what actually drives the Yukon economy, where the real opportunities exist, what the risks look like in practical terms, and whether this part of Canada is truly worth investing in. This is North of MAGA. I'm your host, Pierre Shields, and this is the Yukon. The Yukon economy. The Yukon is one of the smallest economies in Canada. It has a population of roughly 45,000 people and a gross domestic product of just over $3 billion. That makes it tiny compared to any province. However, small does not necessarily mean insignificant. Au contraire. The Yukon's economy is built around a few core pillars, including mining and resource extraction, construction and infrastructure, government and public services, tourism, and a growing small business and entrepreneurial sector. What makes the Yukon different is not its size, but its concentration. A single major project can meaningfully shift the entire economy. This creates volatility, but it also creates opportunity for investors who understand how northern economies operate. This is not a mass market economy. It's a targeted, long cycle economy built for long-term planning rather than short-term speculation. The Yukon's greatest strengths, natural resources. The Yukon's greatest strength is its natural resource base. Mining has been part of the Yukon's economy foundation for more than a century, dating back to the Klondike Gold Rush. That legacy hasn't faded, it's evolved. Today, the territory is rich in gold, silver, zinc, copper, and other critical minerals. Mining continues to account for a significant share of the Yukon's economy, representing roughly 10 to 15% of GDP in most years. Major projects such as the Eagle Gold Mine and historically significant producers like the Minto Mine demonstrate that the Yukon is not speculative ground. It's proven terrain with real production history. What has changed in recent years is global demand. Critical minerals are now essential for electric vehicles, energy storage, renewable power systems, defense manufacturing, and infrastructure development. As supply chains tighten and geopolitical risks increase, regions with stable governance, strong environmental oversight, and secure access to North American markets become more valuable. This is where the Yukon fits in. For investors who understand long permitting timelines, regulatory processes, and commodity cycles, the Yukon offers real strategic relevance. It's not a place for fast returns, but it can provide meaningful long-term value. Construction and infrastructure, the quiet engine. Construction is another major pillar of the Yukon economy and one of the most consistent sources of activity. Unlike speculative real estate markets, construction in the Yukon is driven primarily by public infrastructure needs. These include housing development, transportation upgrades, energy projects, and community infrastructure. Federal and territorial governments continue to invest heavily in roads, bridges, schools, healthcare facilities, energy systems, and northern development programs. These investments create steady demand for trades, engineering firms, equipment operators, and logistics providers. Because of the Yukon's geography and climate, the infrastructure must be built to higher standards and maintained more aggressively. This increases costs, but it also ensures long-term demand for construction services. As a result, construction remains one of the most stable and reliable sectors in the territory's economy. Tourism, high value, low volume. Tourism plays an important but often misunderstood role in the Yukon economy. The Yukon is not a mass tourism destination. It does not compete with major resort regions or cruise ship hubs. Instead, it attracts a high value, low volume visitor base. These visitors come for wilderness experiences, adventure travel, cultural tourism, indigenous experiences, and northern phenomena such as the aurora borealis, which are absolutely gorgeous. Tourism contributes hundreds of millions of dollars annually to the Yukon economy and supports thousands of seasonal and permanent jobs. Visitors tend to stay longer, spend more time per visit, and rely heavily on guided services and local operators. When managed properly, tourism provides economic diversification, supports indigenous and small businesses, and creates long-term value without overwhelming local infrastructure. The Yukon's approach to tourism prioritizes sustainability and experience quality rather than volume, which helps preserve both the environment and the local economy. Entrepreneurship and the white horse effect. In recent years, Whitehorse has become the center of a growing entrepreneurial ecosystem. Several factors are driving the change, including the rise of remote work, improved connectivity, government support programs, and lifestyle-driven migration. As a result, more people are choosing to operate businesses from the north. This has led to growth in professional services, technology-enabled businesses, creative industries, tourism operations, and small-scale manufacturing. The Yukon government actively supports entrepreneurship through business development funding, innovation grants, startup assistance, Indigenous business programs, and training initiatives, which is really awesome. Good for you, Yukon. Although the market's small, visibility is high. Businesses that establish strong reputations can thrive because competition is limited and community connections matter. For entrepreneurs who understand relationship-based economies and long-term growth, the Yukon can be a viable, rewarding place to operate. Government support and incentives. One of the Yukon's key advantages is the level of government support available to businesses. Both territorial and federal governments offer programs that include business development funding, innovation grants, investment incentives, northern development funding, and immigration pathways for entrepreneurs. There's also targeted programs for Indigenous partnerships and regional economic development. However, these supports require patience. Application processes can be slow. Navigating the system takes time, planning, and documentation. Of course it does. The funding exists, but it's not instant. For investors and business owners who are prepared to work within these frameworks, government support can significantly reduce risk and improve long-term viability. The real challenges. The Yukon is remote, and that reality affects nearly every aspect of doing business. Transportation costs are high, labor is limited, housing availability is tight, supply chains are long, and operating expenses are higher than in southern Canada. The small population also limits the consumer market. Businesses that rely on large volumes, rapid turnover, or low-cost logistics often struggle. This is not an environment suited for speculative investment or rapid expansion. It's an environment that rewards careful planning, strong capital management, and realistic expectations. The investment verdict. So is the Yukon a good place to invest? The answer depends entirely on what an investor is trying to achieve. The Yukon works well for resource development, construction, tourism, and specialized small businesses. It also makes sense for investors seeking long-term strategic positions rather than quick returns. It's not well suited for large-scale manufacturing, high-growth technology startups, or businesses that require large labor pools. The strongest opportunities remain in critical minerals, energy development, infrastructure, and northern services. These areas involve risk, but they also offer meaningful upside for investors who understand the territory. Takeaway. The Yukon is not broken, but it's not easy. It rewards patience, discipline, and realism. It punishes shortcuts and speculation. For those who understand the economic and political terrain, the Yukon can offer real opportunity. For those who don't, well, it can drain capital quickly. That's the difference between investing based on headlines and investing based on reality. I'm Pierre Shields for North Omega. Oh, if you please like, subscribe, comment, share, click on notifications, all that rigmarole. Thanks for spending time with me. Go play outside.